Hi everyone, welcome to Cobalt Academia's Hacking Half the Video series. I'm Busra, aka RU1 or Zero, an offensive security researcher and a pentest architect at Cobalt.io. With Hacking Half the Video series, we will see how to exploit vulnerabilities that we encounter every day during pentests. In this specific video, we will see how to exploit XXE injection, aka XML external entity injection vulnerability by using different scenarios. If you're ready, let's jump in.
Hi everyone, in this video we will see how to exploit XXE vulnerability on a Hack the Box machine called Aragog. So I already done some basic enumeration, and when I check the FTP port, I'm seeing that there is anonymous FTP vulnerability exists here. When I checked for all the files with ls-a, I'm seeing that there's a test.txt file. I got the file, and when I read the file content, it's given me an XML structure. So what I did is I copied the selection and I pasted it in an XXE file format. So as you can see, there is XML declaration, then I wrote my XXE payload and the following structure. Since I created this XXE variable in here, I need to call it in here. So creating the payload is done, and the next thing should be doing some enumeration in a way that I can send this XML file. So what I done is I did some directory brute forcing, and I saw that host.php file is available here. So I intercepted the request, went to burp, and I saw this file. So I am sending this to repeater, and I'm gonna look at it as if post request is possible. So what I will do is I will first just send the following as a normal body content for XML file. It's not giving me an error. So from there, I will be copying all my XXE payload here. Okay, and we'll be pasting here. When I send this, I am hoping that it will give me etc passwd file content, which it does. So it's pretty straightforward. What we've done is we find this file. Let's go back to shell in the FTP anonymous server, which was giving me the XML file format with these XML variables. From there, I created my own payload for XXE vulnerability by declaring XML and then creating my payload. Of course, I refer to the variable that I created in here, and then I did some directory brute forcing and find this file, which was allowing me to send an XML body here, and I use my payload to get the content of etc passwd file. In this video, we will see how to exploit XXE vulnerability on a file upload functionality. So I will be using DevOops from Hack the Box, and if you're ready, let's jump in. So I already did basic enumeration, and there are two ports open, 22 SSH port, and there's an HTTP port 5000 is open. When I go there, I'm seeing that there's a page under construction. This is feedback.py file, a Python file, which will become MVP for block feature application. And there is a to-do list in here. This will be related to the other part of solving this box. For XXE, we won't need this one. So I did some directory brute forcing, and I realized that there is a directory called upload, which allows me to upload a new file. And this file is supposed to be an XML file, and the elements are supposed to be the followings. So in order to create an XXE attack here, or let's say in order to test if this functionality is vulnerable to XXE attack, what I did is I just created the following file. So in here, I declared the XML, and then I wrote my XXE payload, which is probably the most basic payload that you can see for XXE. And then I created some random tags test, and under that, I created XML elements, author, subject, and content. And for content, I called the XXE payload variable that I created in my payload. So this is pretty basic. When I go to browse and upload this, I am seeing the etc passwd content here. Pretty straightforward, but wanted to include this exercise to see more real-time scenarios. We will see how to exploit XXE vulnerability by using a Hack the Box machine called patents. So if you're ready, let's jump in. I've already done some basic enumeration and I realized that there is an endpoint called upload.html which allows me to upload docx files. So what I've done is I go to Google Docs and created a malicious test docs files and send it to my temp directory. So from there, I'd like to play with malicious docs a bit to see if I can inject my XXE payload into docx file. So if you're curious how am I going to do this, let me show you the way. I will first create a directory called extract. I will go to extract directory and we'll say unzip malicious docs file here. So when you unzip a docs file, you will realize that there are a couple of directories are created with some XML files in it. So the technique that I will create, the technique that I will use here is the following. I will go to this directory that I just created and will create my first XML item with the following content. This will be my IP address and I will be creating this x.dtd local file in my local directory and will be using it. You can see the file that I already created in here, which will get the etc passvd content by encoding it with base64 using PHP filter feature and will send it to me on the parameter x when I listen on the port 80. So what I will do is I will just be listening on port 80 and now I need to zip this file again by including item.xml. So I included all these files there, and if you go back and you will see the new.docs file. So I'm going back to my upload directory and I'm uploading this file and generating the PDF and going back to my shell. And now I will be waiting for the base64 encoded content of etc passvd. Okay, sorry guys, I was listening on port 8000. That's a problem apparently. So what I will do is I will be uploading again. I didn't realize my error here. Sometimes it happens. And now we got it. What I will do is I will be copying this content and in the new tab I will be writing the following: echo -n pipe base 64 -d, and you will realize the etc passvd file content. So it's a pretty cool method, but I wanted to include this in the video. In this video, we will see how to exploit XXE, aka XML External Entity Injection vulnerability, by using Portswigger Labs. There are 9 scenarios which covers most of the topics while we're exploiting XXE vulnerability. So if you're ready, let's jump in. The first one is pretty basic exercise by showing how to exploit XXE vulnerability. We will access the lab and we will be intercepting the request with burp. So we will be v1 details and we'll go check stoke. When we click there, it is sending a post request with an XML body. We can see it in here and we will try to inject our payload after the XML declaration here. So I will be sharing these payloads. These are the most basic payloads that you can see, and I will be sharing these in the blog post. So no worries for now. So this is a pretty basic XXE payload, and this is the variable that we are defining here, and we need to call this variable now in the product ID. So when I send this, it's supposed to give me the content of etc passvd file, as you can see in here. Okay, so let's jump into the next one. This is the most cool scenario, I think. I really enjoy it when I find an XXE vulnerability and I escalate it to a server attack. to reach out to admin credentials. So we did the exact same thing again. Check Stoke. It should send a post request with XML body. I'm sending this to repeater, and I will be injecting my payload between XML declaration and I'm calling EC2 metadata endpoint. Of course, I need to call the variable here and XXE. When I do that, it's given me the endpoint latest. So if you're familiar with EC2 metadata exploitation, you know that this is the endpoint that you're supposed to write here. So when you do that, it's giving you the next endpoint, next folder, as you can think of. Then IAM, then security credentials, and continue. It should give me admin, and when I go there, it's giving me the credentials with the secret key, access key ID, and everything. So just another cool exercise. In here we are escalating this vulnerability to SSRF vulnerability. All right, let's go to the next one, which is blind XXE with out of band interaction. All right, or our own server. So we're going to view details, check Stoke, going to proxy, post request, and send it to repeater. So what I will do here is that I will cheat a bit and will go back to previous exercise and will be copying this payload that I posted between XML declaration and Stoke check. But instead of writing EC2 metadata endpoints, I will be writing my own burp collaborator. And of course, I will be calling XXE payload here. I will fire up burp collaborator now. Let me make it small so that we can see everywhere. Okay, this should be okay. I'm copying this to clipboard, I'm pasting it in here and sending this. When I poll, it's given me HTTP and DNS requests in here. So this was another cool exercise. I'm closing these tabs, and the next one is again blind XXE with out of band interaction via XML parameter entities. So let's see, access lab. We're gonna go to details again, check Stoke. I am sending the request to repeater and will write my payload. So this exercise is pretty similar to the previous one. We're just writing our payload in here, but instead of just writing the variable and calling it in here, I am adding this percentage signs before the variable name and calling the variable in my payload. So of course in here I will be writing my burp collaborator address. I'll be calling it send, and when I poll now, I am seeing the interactions coming. So you can either do this or the following by calling the XXE payload in here. Another cool method. Let's jump into the next one. Okay, the next one is blind XXE to exfiltrate data using malicious external DTD. This is a really cool one again. I am accessing the lab. Alright, so before I write my payload on here, I need to save my DTD file, malicious DTD file in my server. Since I don't have my server, I will be going to exploit server of this exercise, and I will be storing my malicious payload in there. So I'm going to exploit server. In body, I'm writing the following XML payload. So I'm writing the following payload in the body. And what I'm doing in here is that in the first line, I'm getting the content of etc hostname file, and in the second line, I will be storing this value in my burp collaborator address, which I will be writing here now. Copy the clipboard and write it in here. I defined this endpoint doesn't matter solution here, and it will be getting the file content here. So of course we are calling this. So okay, so I'm storing this one and going back to burp. See the exploit, and I am copying this address now and going back to burp and writing my payload by calling this exploit URL, which is in here. When I do this and poll now, I am getting these requests in here, and in the endpoint that I defined solution here, I'm getting the host name. I'm copying this, going back to burp, and submit my solution. And it is solved in this way. Pretty straightforward, but yeah, just another scenario. I'm closing this one, and the next one should be exploiting blind XXE to retrieve data via error messages. So let's see. As you can see, we are seeing different types here. Okay, I sent my request to repeater. These are coming from previous exercise. Don't mind it. Over here, I'm going to exploit server, and now I will be pasting my malicious file. So what I will do is I will be first getting the content of etc pass video file, and I will be calling a invalid file here. When I store it and view the exploit, I should. Alright, I wrote my basic XXE payload and write the URL here. So as you can see, now we are getting the etc pass video file content and the response. So this is another scenario that you can see via the error message. So the next exercise is exploiting XInclude to retrieve files. So I'm accessing the lab again. So as you can see in this post request, we don't have control over the full XML file. So we have this product ID here. Instead of this value, I will be writing the following payload, and I will be explaining what am I creating in here. So to perform an XInclude attack, you need to reference the XInclude in the namespace here, and provide a path to the file that you wish to include, which is in here in the second part of the payload. So the payload will consist of a reference to XInclude using XMLness XI attribute, the href attribute to which will reference the file. We are trying to receive, and because XInclude will attempt to parse the file as valid XML, which it doesn't, we have the parse text to prevent it from doing so. So when I do this, I will be getting the etc pass video file content. So the next exercise is XXE via file upload functionality. I will be accessing lab, and it tells me that I need to get the content of etc hostname file, and this will be happening while I am posting a comment. So as you can see, I wrote the following malicious SVG file to conduct my XXE attack to get the etc hostname file. As you can see, we commented, and when we go back to our comment, you can see the hostname file content in our avatar. When we say view image, we can see the hostname file content here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more content. Cheers!
Thank you for watching my video. Stay tuned for more content. Cheers!